She started out as a page at NBC News, but now she's anchoring weekend morning news here at Channel 2 in Charleston. And in this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups, I talk exclusively with Haley Hernandez. Well, you know, recently Channel 2 sent you to Washington to cover the story of Baby Veronica, which you from day one have actually covered.
Right.
And I know that the Supreme Court actually rendered the decision. But for those people who don't know the story of Baby Veronica, can you give me a quick summary of that?
Wow, well, that story actually started, at least, you know, in the news eyes, we started on that story New Year's Eve of 2011, where the family court had recently, at that time, made a decision for the adoptive couple who is from James Island. They're Charleston locals. They have had their adoptive daughter for 2 years, and the family court made a decision that because of something called the Indian Child Welfare Act, she was to go back with her biological father. So like I said, the news started in on this whole controversy the night of New Year's Eve 2011, where we actually witnessed the transition. I witnessed the transition along with the Post and Courier was out there.
Sure.
Difficult thing to watch for both sides, obviously. You know, the biological father claims that once he found out that this adoption was going through to someone outside of the biological family, he tried to put a stop to it starting when Veronica was about 4 months old. So it was a fight that he had been fighting for quite a long time, and then the adoptive couple, like I mentioned, they had been raising her for 2 years, and it was absolutely traumatic for them to have to hand her over to someone that she had never met.
Yes. And, you know, from a reporter standpoint, you know, I'm wondering, what was it like to be inside the Supreme Court actually covering it? So I know you were here on the set talking to Carolyn and Brendan about that.
Right. It was an honor to be able to go and to be inside there. You know, not a lot of people, actually, I'm sure there's a very small percentage of people that can say they've actually been inside the Supreme Court.
Yes.
So that was just an amazing moment for me to actually witness what it looks like in there. It's not what you think. You know, you think it's going to be this grand, luxurious courtroom, and it was a tiny little box with big, thick curtains, so it was difficult to see, and it was overwhelming is an understatement, because the justices, in order for everyone to get their point across, the justices have to ask these questions, just spitfiring at the attorneys for 30 minutes. So even the attorney had to, you know, be on their game and know exactly how to answer each question as they were rapidly coming at them, because they didn't have time to even fully answer. They had to have their point on the tip of their tongue and ready to go. They never stopped talking, never stopped challenging each side for the entire 30 minutes.
And speaking of Channel 2 here, you've been here since April of 2011.
Yes.
And, you know, I know that obviously you work behind the scenes at NBC News, but I know had to be nerve-wracking for you to start as a reporter. Tell me, how nerve-wracking was that?
Yeah, well, actually the Veronica story is the one I use to really show people how far I've come as a reporter. Okay. I started in this market having a pretty solid TV background, but I had never been in front of the camera before. And I think there were some, you know, there was some... Sorry, I'm trying to just think of how to put it. People were watching me to see how I was going to do in front of the camera. That's a difficult move to make.
Since you were working at the networks.
Right. And so I had a couple times where I felt like I crashed and burned. But like I mentioned, once I got a story like the Veronica story that I really made my own, I got to see myself develop, because that's the one that I was covering for more than a year. So it was a difficult transition going from behind the scenes to in front of the scenes, but I think that I'm much more comfortable here now. I wouldn't want to go back.
Hey, don't worry about it, because, you know, a lot of people have done what you have done, and, you know, it's called experience.
Yes, exactly. I got my experience in Charleston, which was nerve-wracking, because this is a huge market to come to and try to get experience. There's a lot of eyes on me, but I hope I'm doing it well. I'm trying.
And speaking of that, now you are an anchor for News 2 Today Weekend.
Yes.
Which is the Low Country's only live local weekend morning show.
Yes, we're very proud of that.
Yeah. Tell me, how's anchoring going for you?
It's going well. Again, it's all about getting the experience. I came to Charleston having never reported before, especially I had never anchored before, and now I'm sitting here doing an hour-long broadcast all by myself.
So I watch it all the time.
Thank you.
Yes.
It's you know, we're growing, and now that we've got the full team here and set, we've got, you know, Chrissy as our meteorologist, we've got Cole Higgins, our producer. So now that we've come together and we're kind of bonding and learning how each other work, I think the show's really taking off.
And before Channel 2, as we mentioned earlier, you worked at NBC News.
Yes.
And you worked with Brian Williams first and NBC Nightly News.
Yes.
What was that experience like?
It was the experience of a lifetime. I mean, it will probably always be the best job I've ever had.
Yes.
I got to be behind the scenes and see how the network functions. We had 14 million viewers on an average night, and that was just the, you know, nature of the game to them. So it was really fascinating to be somebody who, I wasn't a New York City local, you know, I'm a Southern girl. So to go there and see how they just think that's a normal thing, and to kind of observe how they got so many people's trust and respect, and then to kind of apply that to my own journalistic skills, it's like I said, it's probably going to be the best job I've ever had. I learned a lot from them, and you know, you get to really see how America functions too. I was there when we pulled out of Iraq, and I got to know that information before the entire country did. And to know how to approach that, and to tell people, to go into people's living rooms and be able to tell them, this is what's happening in our country right now. It's kind of a magical moment.
Yes. And even before NBC, you actually worked with a highly favored guy in 60 Minutes. Who was that?
Do you know, well, I personally worked with Michael Radutsky.
Yes.
You know Michael Radutsky?
I've heard of him.
You've heard of him?
Yes,
okay.
yes.
He is the senior producer for 60 Minutes,
Yeah.
and wow, he is the biggest mentor I've ever had. Right. Lester Holt has become a dear friend, but Michael Radutsky hired me right out of college. I moved to New York City without a job, just being ambitious, and Michael Radutsky hired me to be his assistant.
Wow.
So he was actually kind enough to give me credit on an Emmy Award-winning piece that we worked on together.
Yes.
About the bird strike, which crashed,
Oh, yeah.
or which landed Flight 1549
Oh, yes.
into the Hudson
Absolutely,
River.
yeah.
Yeah, so that piece earned our team an Emmy, and I have recognition on that because I was working with
Yes.
Michael at the time.
That's awesome.
So yeah, I mean, I got thrown into the fire at a really young age. I was 22 years old working for a major broadcast.
That is huge.
So I've learned a lot.
Yes. And speaking of learning a lot, for 4 months during 2008, you actually were an assignments editor for Telemundo.
Yes.
Talk to me about who, you know, Haley Hernandez was as an assignment editor.
Well, that's what I did while I was in college still.
Yes.
Jeez, it seems so long ago now. But yeah, when I was in college, I was the Spanish liaison, university liaison for Telemundo. So every week, like Thursday nights or something, I did a 1-minute Spanish-speaking piece on what was happening at the University of Oklahoma.
Yes.
So for the Oklahoma City Telemundo station is who aired it, and they hired me to be their assignment editor. So I went and worked for them I was part-time. I was like 4 hours a day
Okay.
telling these Spanish-speaking reporters what kind of stories to cover, which
Sure.
working for a Spanish TV station is so much different than an English TV station because we put a lot more focus on things that apply to our Spanish audience. We did a lot more immigration stories and things like that. So it was a totally different experience, but it showed me how a newsroom functions. You know, they are still just as dysfunctional as every English-speaking newsroom in the country.
I was going to say, I mean, whew. Well, let's walk down memory lane to the University of Oklahoma where you graduated from. You know, talk to me about your college years there.
Oh boy. Well, they were great. I actually enjoy talking about that because I had a great time in college.
Okay.
I originally went to college on a theater scholarship. I know. I didn't know that I was ever going to end up here, but I went on a theater scholarship. That's what took me to Oklahoma.
Yes.
I joined a sorority.
Oh,
I, had a good time doing that. And then by my senior year, I found myself working for the OU Nightly Newscast, behind the news desk. I was one of 2 girls at the university who spoke Spanish and was working for the nightly newscast. So that's how Telemundo then got involved.
Yes.
So I was in a lot of the right place at the right time. You know, I mean, not a lot of people would even venture out to major in theater, but it took me to a broadcasting class, which is how I got here today.
And let's talk about home, which is Houston for you.
Yes.
Put on your memory hat for me and tell me, what are your memories of that particular city?
Houston has changed so much since I grew up there. I mean,
Yes.
my memories of it are it's hot. It is equivalent to, or maybe on some days hotter than here, because we don't have the lovely sea breeze that Charleston gets. It's very hot, but I grew up in a wonderful area because I grew up close to NASA. So I went to very diverse schools growing up. You know, in the NASA area, you've got engineers moving over from Saudi Arabia, Russia, any of the countries in the Middle East.
Sure.
So I had a very diverse upbringing, being so close to NASA, which I loved and enjoyed, and I feel like it gave me a lot of perspective on the world, which readied me then for college, which is why I was adventurous enough to go out of state for college.
Well, describe to me the following one word. Animals.
I think of dogs. I love dogs.
Me too. Me too. I wish I could have one, but...
I'm just answering you one word?
No, it's all good. It's all good for you.
Yeah, I love dogs, so that's what comes to mind.
And one of my favorite things, which I do a lot, is running.
Yes, and I've seen you on the bridge.
Yeah, you're better than me.
We run past each other.
That's right.
No, I told you to tell me to speed up next time. The uphill, the 1 mile uphill is what kills me.
Yeah, I know. It's that incline.
Yeah, you know I'm a boxer too.
Is that right?
Yeah, so I train at Hurricane Boxing on James Island.
Yes.
And so running is really what I do to get my cardio strength for boxing, but I need to get better at running. Push me.
Yeah, I will. Running, I love it. It's fun. It just cleanses my mind. Just,
Yeah, you've got the energy for it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, describe to me your reporting in one word.
I don't know. I love it. It's so difficult to describe because the first word that comes to my mind is that it's tough.
It is.
But that's not a bad thing. I love what I do and I love the challenge of it. Like we were talking about, it's challenging to even schedule interviews.
Yes.
And people see you on TV for 1 minute,
right.
A 1 minute hit in the 5 o'clock show. They don't realize that you spent 8 hours of your day just trying to get somebody to talk to you.
Right.
Just trying to get hold of a police report.
Yep.
Just trying to make it out to Monk's Corner or Somerville or wherever you're going to get the crime scene video, to get the scene video. It might not even be a crime.
Right.
But it's tough. It has its challenges, but I love it.
One word to describe Channel 2.
I love it. I would say that we have our challenges here also, but it's a great place to work, and they trusted me, like I mentioned, having no TV, no on-air experience before, and they let me in the door, so I owe a lot to Channel 2.
Yeah. One word to describe Haley Hernandez.
I think I am just kind of, I don't know, relaxed, fun-loving.
Yes, you are. I can see that. I mean, even in the past 20 minutes being with you, I can see that.
Yeah, well, people that know me, people in my personal life, find it funny that I can be so serious on camera because I have a good sense of humor.
I'm sure you do. And speaking of that, what is something else that people don't know about you?
I think that I'm a boxer.
Where did that love come from?
My dad was always a boxing fan growing up,
Okay.
and when I was about 16, I took my first boxing class, and I do it for sport. I mean, a lot of people do it for fitness or for self-protection, but I love the sport. Talk about a stress release. So I think people wouldn't guess that about me either, that, they see me behind the camera and wearing all this makeup, but I'm tough.
Yes, you are. Well, I've been talking to a lot of people around here, and they think that you're a superstar. And so before we go, I want to talk to you about your future. When you look into your crystal ball...
I want to talk about who thinks I'm a superstar.
Oh.
I'm I've never heard that word before, but I'll take it.
Yeah, you are. You absolutely are. And, you know, I want to know, what's the next chapter for you? Because you are going to be a superstar.
Yeah, well, you mentioned how I've been here since April of 2011,
Yes.
and at that time I had no idea where I was going. I didn't know if I was going to stay in Charleston, but here I am, and I have this new weekend morning show that I really, you know, I feel like it's just getting its legs, and I'm trying to nurture that and really own that. So I'm going to be doing that for a while, for sure. The next step, it might be to move closer to home. You know, Mom and Dad are still in Texas, and I miss my family a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know how quickly that's going to happen. I know I'm in Charleston for at least another 2 years, but
contract-wise,
yeah, exactly. So I'm gonna be here working on this weekend morning show. Tell everyone to watch it.
Yes, yes.
And then who knows where I go after that.
Those 2 years will fly by fast, and you're going to be that superstar.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it, Quintin.
Thank you. And it was so great talking to you, by the way.
It was great talking to you. Thank you for inviting me to do this.